Hi there, I'm David, and today we're going to talk about Black Widow and some of the science of the things that happened within the film. Let's get started. Before we get started, spoiler warning. If you don't want any spoilers, just click on our next video. Watch something about quantum physics. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk about the red room in the sky and how it remained undetected for so long. Let's think about radar. How does radar work? Radar is essentially, these days, a sphere sending out signals, and when a signal is sent out, it then returns to the radar. Even though all of these waves go out, not all of it comes back, but on the trajectory, it is possible to map the distance based on the laws of strength when it comes to the energy returned and the direction, or to triangulate the object. Additionally, there's thermal goggles, thermal vision, and various other technologies out there. I did not see any cloaking on the red room at all. So imagine you've got this thing put up in the sky by what looks to be rockets that are going to be generating a lot of heat, and it's not completely concealed in the clouds, and even if it was, it would still reflect a signal because those signals pass through the clouds. Therefore, the red room wouldn't really remain hidden. The Navy, Coast Guard, facilities all throughout the world would have spotted it a number of times and probably gone to investigate it. Next up, let's talk about when they had the fight in the sky. At the very end of the film, there was a situation where there was a parachute being used at the very last possible second and surviving. Now, mind you, we'll suspend our disbelief that Black Widow is human, but we'll ignore that, like I said. When skydiving, there's something called stolen air. That is, if somebody is before you, lower than you, and they have deployed their parachute, they are going down at the speed expected with their parachute. The air that you would have grabbed with your parachute has already been displaced and offset. Air operates on the same principles of fluid dynamics because it is a gas. Although it is not a liquid, if you were to separate the molecules and apply the same equations, you're going to end up with very similar results. When it comes to a plane, your forward momentum, your forward velocity and acceleration, if it does not have a certain value to it, or essentially if you are not creating enough lift by moving forward, the air is going to end up catching your wing and causing you to essentially stop. So if we just follow my hand for a moment, we are going up in the air like this, but we are moving too slow. Eventually our momentum is going this direction, horizontally more than it is enough to create lift. And of course, that phenomenon is exaggerated by other forces as well, but this is a very simple explanation. So due to that, the air pushing in this direction and the lack of lift being created because we're trying to move up instead of creating actual lift under the wing causes us to stall out and go down. With the parachute, this is very similar. If you jump out of the airplane and you do not open your parachute until you're close to the ground, your velocity is going to be way, way too high to slow down by the time that you get there. Instead of there being Scarlett Johansson, there would have been more of like a soup, if you will. It's probably a little dark. If you open your parachute, you typically want about 30 seconds above the ground before you were to hit. So you want enough time for your parachute to grab the air, slow you down enough so that when you land, it's somewhat graceful. This is why people run when they hit the ground, or in the Army and various other military branches around the world, with their equipment and the type of parachute that they use, they just let their legs drop and give and fall over. All right, so let's go on to the olfactory nerve system here. Black Widow found out that there was a pheromone that could prevent her from harming the bad guy, the supermaster bad guy in the red room floating villa, if you will. What she did was bash her head against a desk to cut off or to sever the nerve. But there's something that should be noted here. At this present day, there is no evidence of any surgery or operation successfully reconnecting olfactory nerves to the brain correctly. Of course, they can heal on their own, but typically incorrectly. This is also known as post-traumatic olfactory dysfunction, when the olfactory nerve has been severed from the brain and the person can no longer smell. Now, what happens with pheromones is that there is a gland within the brain that is the same as in animals when it comes to pheromones, but when a fetus is within the womb, that gland shrivels up and goes away before birth. This gland is called vomeronasal gland, vomeronasal. And while it is a pit in humans that is not functional, it is still a pit that is there. So technically speaking, it's possible that human pheromone receptors are simply the olfactory receptors, and Black Widow, again, would not have sense of smell, would have likely never returned. However, in her close proximity to sweaty Avengers, it's probably a good thing. I can't imagine their gym socks smell very good. One other thing to note about the severing of the olfactory nerve, it is that it is most common when the trauma has been performed to the back of the skull as opposed to the front. That kind of breaks a bit of the theme in the film, but that's all right. The entire idea of watching cinema is to suspend our disbelief. While things may not be accurate or portrayed in a way that is realistic, it is for us to enjoy, to entertain us, and for us to have fun. That's really it. As far as the mind control of the widows, it was a pretty interesting concept for the film. I think they borrowed it from the comics, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm not necessarily a comic nerd. Sorry, forgive me, Marvel heroes. When it comes to that mind control situation that was in that film, they were chemically brainwashed or chemically programmed to perform the actions that they were doing, and they were controlled by a console. I don't think that this would be very applicable without necessarily a bunch of electronics and various materials inside of the brain itself, such as we have with beetles and different fungi that can affect ants. However, when it comes to mind control, there are definitely real-world things that have happened and happen on a daily basis. If you think about it, every single time that you are told a phrase repeatedly, it becomes embedded into your mind. This is often why motivational speakers will repeat a phrase such as "be strong and courageous" repeatedly throughout their speech. They're putting it into your head, and every single time that you're in a situation, you will then return or regurgitate that even internally inside of your head. So when you're watching the news, you're reading things online, be careful of keywords. Too much repetition can actually change your opinion. So once I was walking down the street and I really liked this dog, and there was a man who asked me to subscribe to his service. And then he wanted me to share the strawberries that he had with him, and I really liked those strawberries. So I shared the strawberries with the neighbors, and I really subscribed to the idea that sharing is caring. And later on, after enjoying this, I really liked sharing the strawberries and seeing the way that people enjoyed them and shared them with each other. And later on, I subscribed to GeeklyEDU. So don't forget to subscribe, check out other videos, like, share, hit the bell for notifications, and we'll see you next time. I love this sweater, but it doesn't have enough pockets. Is there a, do we have a variant with more pockets for stuff? That would be really cool, you know? I don't know, I just need pockets for all kinds of stuff. Just, you know, pockets.